Raise your hand if you've ever been in, or maybe currently are in, a toxic relationship. You all know, if you watched my story, that that's something I dealt with in the past. And there's these really common factors to a toxic relationship. They're manipulative. They make you feel like you're crazy. They're emotionally abusive. You become really insecure and jealous, and you can become controlling, and the relationship can start to control you, where you feel like you can't act certain ways or you can't be your whole self. There's other aspects of it where you can have negative financial, emotional, spiritual impact from it. It can make you feel really isolated because you're being taken away from your friends, your family, your career, all the things that are really important to you because you're so wrapped up in this relationship, even if it's toxic. So if that sounds familiar, let me know. But the thing for me that I realized is, yes, I have been in a relationship that felt a lot like that. But another thing in my life that feels a lot like that is social media, right? Listen, I love social media and it's a part of my life, it's a part of my job. But I noticed in my last video, there were a lot of comments from you about how overwhelming it can feel, and I totally relate. Life with Ike said, "You're a literal godsend. I woke up an hour ago. I've been feeling in this weird state for the last couple of weeks where I haven't been as productive. I haven't been as confident in my abilities, and I've been feeling overwhelmed. And then I'm starting to get sucked into the social media vortex." And Shamar Trail Bryant said, "I got so overwhelmed with life a few months ago that I stopped creating content and got off social media." So this is a common theme, and I watched a documentary over the weekend called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, I do recommend it. Here's what I'll say. It's very dramatic, and it has a reason to be. And it's all these people who've worked at all the major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, etc. And they're talking about how bad social media is. They do make some points about how good it is. And I think when I watched it, a lot of it I already knew, and a lot of it I already, had put into practice and put boundaries in place. But I just think it's a tool at the end of the day. And because I work in social media, doesn't mean that I'm on social media all day long. And I've had to ensure that I understand how social media works so it stops treating me like a shitty boyfriend. And where I become more in the control position with it and know that it's a tool. And when you understand how social media works, it's very easy to create a healthy relationship with it and healthy boundaries with it, which is what I wanted to share with you today. So if you feel like you're getting sucked into the social media vortex and you feel like you're so overwhelmed by it and it's taking you away from all the things that you're trying to achieve, this is for you. And I'm making it as much for you as it is a reminder for myself, because it ebbs and it flows. But here's the thing. Let me break down first how social media works. Social media, the currency of social media is your attention. So the more time you spend on every platform, the better, because the more time spent on the platform, the more active users, and the main metric of every social media platform is daily active users and monthly active users. So the more that people can keep you on the platform, the more that the platforms can keep you on the platform, the more money they're ultimately going to make. So once you understand how it works, you can set really healthy boundaries with it. So let's dive into how I've turned my toxic relationship with social media into a very healthy relationship and how you can do the same thing. So the first thing is you definitely want to make sure that you create friction. And I talk about this with pretty much everything I do. Whether you're building a business and you need to make sales, etc., you want to create friction. So first of all, my phone does not stay in my bedroom ever. It's a rule in our house. Stays in the kitchen. The other thing for me is I always turn off notifications. I make sure that I store my apps in a separate folder on my phone that's not on the home screen, so it's not as easily accessible. I also take social media sabbaticals a lot. I take weekends off of social media. I'll delete all of my apps throughout the week just to make sure that I'm not super tempted. And one really big and easy way to create friction for yourself when it comes to social media is to actually take it off your phone and only use it on desktop. I know that might sound intense, but it allows you to have the freedom of having your phone with you without being pulled to constantly check it. The thing with notifications, that's like the first thing, taking notifications off, not allowing yourself to see the little ping every time something happens, because notifications are really, truly a shitty boyfriend. Like, they are that boyfriend who does not respect your boundaries, or girlfriend, whatever. So you have to make sure that you're putting the boundary in place, because it's human nature. And it's built, these apps are built for our attention. So the notifications are built to get us back on the app because they want active users on the app. So if you take that away, it creates friction so you don't constantly feel the need to check, because it's normal. If you see something pinging on your phone, of course you're gonna grab it. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what it's for. You're doing exactly what it's built for. So there's no shame in that, but make sure that you create that friction so you don't do it as often. Now the next piece of this is understanding your goals and the opportunity cost. What do I mean by that? So I did a video recently called How to Be Insanely Productive Doing Less, and I talked about how I set goals, and I really break it down into 4 categories. And so when I know what I'm working towards and this is up in front of me every day, this and social media become a lot less tempting because I know that every minute I spend on here is taking me away from what I ultimately want to achieve. So when you know where you're going and you have a focus, you're not going to be as distracted by social media. But there's still things to put into place to make sure that you are putting in a good amount of time towards what you ultimately want, as opposed to just scroll holing and numbing yourself with your social media feeds and your phone. So one thing that I do is after 7 p.m., do my very best not to check my phone or social media. Same thing in the morning. I don't touch my phone for the first 2 hours in the morning, and I just take that time to take care of myself, make sure that all the business stuff is taken care of that I need to check in the morning, and then I'll go in and intentionally set time to be on social media. Instead of trying to get off of social media, I intentionally set time to be on it. And that has made a huge difference for me, because it's less about like, oh, I can't get out of the scroll hole, I gotta get off. It's more about, oh yeah, I guess I should check social media, and scheduling time to actually be on it. Now, having said that, I'm not perfect. No one is. The average person spends 2 hours and 22 minutes a day on social media. And the first thing you need to do to really get a grip on this is understand how much time you're spending on it. So if you have an iPhone, you can go to screen time in your settings, and it'll tell you your daily average. Mine this week is higher than normal. Am I upset with myself about that? No. Am I aware of it? Yes. And I know why, because this week has been full and I've had to be on social media and on my phone more for work. And also because I have other things going on in my life. I'm planning a wedding and that's caused me to be on my phone and on social media a lot more than normal. So mine is 3 hours and 14 minutes a day. Not great, but it also doesn't help for me to be like, oh, I'm an idiot and this is the worst. I'm the worst person ever for being on social media and I have an addiction. It's not that. It's being aware and doing better. So I've had days and weeks where I'm less than 30 minutes a day. And that's ultimately what I'm working towards, but I also understand the nature of the beast and the nature of what I do. And so it's okay to have weeks like this. So I challenge you to look right now and tell me in the comments, what is your daily average screen time? Now, the next thing to understand is if you find yourself scrolling constantly, you've done that to yourself and it's not what the app has done. If you need to understand more about how this works, this is really what's happening when you find yourself getting more and more content that you like. That's what it's built for. So you see content that you like and gets your attention, that triggers the algorithm to say, okay, let's feed this person more of that. And then they give you more content that you're gonna wanna see, which equals more time spent on the platform, which equals more money for the platform. So how do you filter out what you see and what you're spending your attention and time on? Well, first of all, these are some of the questions I'll ask myself. Is it serving your purpose? Is it a yes or a no? If you watched my last video, you know what the cilantro test is, but basically, does it make you feel good? And is it a yes? And is it expansive? Or is it something that makes you cringe, makes you uncomfortable, makes you feel insecure or unworthy? That's something that you don't want to be giving your attention to because it's only going to feed you with more of it. Can you learn from it? That's a really good question. The next question is more important. Do you need to learn from it? There is a plethora of information on the internet, but do you really need to be learning all of it at once? No. So if it doesn't need to be learned right now, move on and save that for another day. You don't need to learn everything at once. And then the next thing is, can you grow from it? If you can grow from it, that's an amazing thing. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to toxic relationships, a lot of the times they can feel really isolating. And I talked about this in a video called I'm Rethinking Social Media, because what I've noticed is because of this little content cycle, one of the biggest problems is that we only see things that we tend to agree with or that are in our realm of what we think is right. And it's led to these echo chambers where a certain set of people with a certain set of beliefs, they all feed each other and fuel each other's fire because they all think that they're right. And over here, there's a completely different set of people doing the exact same thing. And so one thing that I will suggest, and something that I've been doing actively in the last couple of months, is to get out of my echo chamber. And I've actively sought out people that I know I won't necessarily agree with, or at least people who have a different perspective than me, who look differently than me, and who maybe act, behave, think differently than me. That's important. Because if you live in an echo chamber of people who all look the same as you and all think the same as you gotta burst your bubble. It's not real life, and it's a dangerous, I think that's the most dangerous part of social media right now, is we're all feeling very isolated in this one little corner. It can lead to disaster. So that's one thing that I'll say on the very scary and dangerous part of social media, and why it's really important to get out of that echo chamber. Now, just as important as that is to understand that if you're creating content on social media, you also need to be a conscious creator. There was a study done that kids, so teens, who are spending more time on Instagram, Facebook, etc., they had a 13 to 66% higher chance of depression versus kids who spent less time on social media. Also, young women are actually going to plastic surgery offices because they want to look more like the filters that they see on Instagram. Because let's face it, we all know this isn't normal. And when you're constantly seeing this altered state of beauty, you start to think that that's reality, and that is messing with people's heads. So as a creator, something that I'm trying to commit to is don't use filters and don't use Photoshop. There's going to be some like photos and exceptions to that, but the more that I can show up just the way that I normally look, the more that it sets a realistic standard of what real human beings look like. So that's another important part as being a creator, that you are not just contributing to noise. And I'm gonna say something right now that is gonna go against a lot of what you've heard when it comes to social media. Consistency is not necessarily the key to your success. If you're someone who posts every single day, but you are frustrated because you're not seeing growth, that's proof. Of course, the platforms want you to create more because it makes you be on the platform longer, and of course it draws more attention to you to keep your viewers and your users and your etc. on the platform. But it's quality over quantity. And this is something that we talk about all the time with our clients in our programs. If you're all interested in those, you can click the link below this video. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that I have always really affirmed that it's not about how much content you make. That is a losing game. It's about how good and how helpful and how valuable the content is that you make, and being highly intentional with it, so you're not constantly in a rat race just feeding the algorithm. Because the other part of it is, if you're constantly on social media, you're probably consuming a lot of content from within your industry. So let's say you want to grow on YouTube. You're probably watching a lot of people who talk about growing on YouTube. So then you start to get these watered down ideas because you're basically getting this information and you think it's the right information, and therefore then you're going to be spewing that information right back to other people and probably talking about it on your platforms. And it creates this, for lack of a better term, circle jerk of, I hope that's not offensive, but it does. It creates this issue where everybody's talking about the same thing and no one has unique content. So less is more, honestly, especially in the beginning. Test, get your feet wet, understand what your audience likes and doesn't like, and understand the value of testing and taking risks. Social media has changed the way we think about risk taking. And every great entrepreneur knows you got to take risks, you got to test before you know something actually works. So that mindset of needing to be perfect all the time is hurting your potential growth. So when you do post, is it relevant to your ideal audience or viewer? And is it going to give you a return? That could be, is it going to make you happy? Is it going to grow your business? Is it going to grow your brand? Is it going to be helpful? Is it going to get more people to be interested in you? Okay, then that's a good test for what you should be posting. Now, on another very sort of nerdy level, to control your time on social media, some things that you can do if you're using YouTube. One thing that you can do if you're finding yourself in this hole of seeing the same information all the time, first of all, clear your search history. Second of all, use YouTube when you're logged out, because it's not going to be able to track what you've been watching. So that's a helpful way to not constantly see the same information all the time. When you're in and on any of these platforms, make sure that who you're following is actually who you want to see, and you're getting notifications from the channels that you actually care about, and you're not getting sucked into things that the machine and the algorithm are just suggesting to you. It's not humans running these platforms, it's machines, and their job is to keep you on it. So it's your job to be very, very conscious of what you're consuming and how you're consuming it. So those are very tactical ways to make sure that you're not being sucked into the hole. Now, the last thing I'll say is go back and watch some of your favorite influencers and go to their oldest posts. Comparison is a huge problem on social media, and I think a lot of the times we think that people get overnight success or overnight 1 million followers. It's not real. And if you go back and you watch where they started from or where they came from, it makes you feel a lot better about potentially where you are. So feel free to go back on my channel. You're gonna see some interesting stuff. But it'll put in perspective, like, I've been at this a long time. And I'm continuing to test and to grow and to try things so that I'm a human on this platform and I'm not constantly being put in a box because it feeds the algorithm what it wants me to feed it. If that was the case, I would just keep talking about the same things over and over and over again, like I used to do. But for me, it's really important at this point to test and to learn even more about how YouTube in particular works so that I can show up in an even more impactful way for you. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to test. Don't be afraid to not get views. Don't set expectations on what it is that you create. How many times have you made something and you're like, people are gonna love this, and then nobody watches it? That happens to the best of us. But was it helpful to one person? That's all that matters. You may change one person's life by creating that piece of content. Have fun. Don't take it so seriously. And stop letting social media treat you like a shitty boyfriend. Are you with me? Watch this video next on why I'm rethinking social media and how to be insanely productive doing less. Hit that like button if you liked it. Be sure to share it with somebody who needs to hear it, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.